everybody, this is Everyday Commentary, and this is a video overview of this knife. This knife just came out. This is the Civivi Knives Lumi, which is a knife designed by Justin Lundquist and produced by Civivi, which is a branch of We Knives. This is going to be an overview, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the specs, what I like and what I don't like, and then that'll be it. So let's do some size comparisons before we get into the specs. So here's the knife compared to a knife I have around all the time, which is the G10 20CV. Oh man, ooh, it's kind of grody. G10 20CV mini grip. As you can see, it is the knife is significantly smaller. Well, not significantly, but noticeably smaller than the G10 mini grip. And open, obviously, it's a pretty big difference. So the mini grip is a really compact and well-designed knife. There's a lot of blade in the handle. And so it's not unusual that a knife would be bigger, but this knife has a lot of blade. So it comes out and it seems like it's significantly larger. It's probably a ½ inch larger than the Lumi. Here it is up against an American dollar. As you can see, there's the US dollar. The Lumi comes just about to just over the halfway point. And here is the knife in comparison to the thickness of a AA battery. You can see the Lumi is a really thin knife. So let's talk about it. So it has gray G10 scales. The steel on the blade is 14C28N, which used to be a US exclusive for Kershaw, but it is no longer, and it is a knife steel produced by Sandvik. This knife is made in China, so they took the steel from Sandvik, which I think is in Sweden, shipped it over to China, then made the knife and shipped the knife back over to the United States. It has, I think, a 2.6-inch blade length. It weighs like right under 2 ounces, and the retail price on this version is $49.95. There is a micarta version with a blackout blade that is, I think, $59, so $10 more. They also make a black handle version of this, so black G10. The knife has a deep carry over the top pocket clip, and as you can see, it is a front flipper. Last thing I want to note, and this is something that's not really talked about in the reviews, is that this is really reminiscent of a classic Puuko. It has a very thin edge, it has a very pointy tip, and it has this rounded sort of pill-shaped handle. You can't really tell on the pictures, but there is a taper at the front and a taper at the back, and so what you get is this nice palm swell. And despite being a really small knife, I get a full 4-fingered grip here. There is a little sharpening choil, not a finger choil, so you can, if you need to, choke way up. But this knife has a really pokey tip. Like, this is in the Kershaw leak territory. I don't know how it's going to hold up, so we'll see for the review. But man, is this thing sharp. Really sharp. But the homage here to the Puuko blade shape and handle shape was much more intense than I thought it would be, just looking at the knife online. The last thing I wanted to point out before we get started is the liners. As you can see, the liner here is textured. It has a little bit of jimping, so you can easily access it. And there's an access cutout here in the G10 and in the liner, as you can see. And finally, the liners are skeletonized. So this small knife is made even lighter. So let's talk about what I like. So the first thing that I like is I like the really nice, visually pleasing to the hand and pleasing in the pocket shape of the knife. This knife follows in the tradition of a couple of different Justin Lundquist knives where he's trying to make them completely symmetrical. Here he's given up the idea of perfect symmetry by adding this little cutout, and that is not in my mind a detraction. Like, I like the purity of the idea, and you can see it on something like the knife he released for our Urban EDC supply. I forget, what was it called? Anyway, that knife, of which they are releasing another version, was not as accessible, and as a result, I didn't like it as much as I like the feel of this knife. You should also be aware that there is a higher end version of this small symmetrical knife that doesn't have a Puuko blade shape or Puuko handle. called the Eidolon, and the Eidolon has a integral G10 handle, which is pretty cool. But it's like $100, $150, $170 more than this knife. So I thought I would, dip my toes in the water, see how this knife worked out, and then go from there. But this very beautiful, very symmetrical, very clean blade shape not only looks good, but is really great in the hand and the pocket. Another touch that I like that's a little touch, and you can see it here, is the liners are a little proud of the scales, and that gives you just an extra bit of roundedness in the hand. It makes it fill out the hand a little bit fuller, which is a good thing. Another thing that I really like about the knife, I like the over-the-top pocket clip. It's very similar to this pocket clip, and this pocket clip's a good one. So I like this knife a lot in terms of the pocket clip. The things that I don't like, so let's get into that a little bit. I'm not super thrilled with the way the knife deploys. It deploys consistently with a thumb, but on a lot of front flippers, you can get it to do that. And I did it there, but this is not, fudge. And that'll get my second point. Not consistent. This is pretty consistent, but the four-finger flip is not. And that just has to do with how the knife is tuned and how the D10 is tuned, and how the jimping works on the top to act as a flipper tab. On really good front flippers, you can hit it both this way and this way. Like on my Pena X series, I can do both. And on the small Shimori, I can do both. So that's pretty cool. And the fact that I can't do it here, a little bit of a drawback though. This is so consistent, I'm not gonna hammer it all that much. But the one thing that I think is probably a legit drawback, though quite frankly, it hasn't done anything yet, this blade shape is just way, way too thin at the tip. So let's talk about blade stock. I am a huge fan of thin, slicey blades. But as you can see, this knife, which is not a thick knife, this is not a chunky, thick blade at all, is significantly thicker than the blade stock on this knife. And when you take that very thin, slicey blade stock and you start tapering it out to the point, it basically loses full thickness here, because you can see that there's a little bit, it's not a full flat grind, it's a flat, in fact, it's a hollow grind. The grind starts here, so you really lose all of the, the full thickness of the blade right here, and it just gets paper thin out here, paper thin. Now, they could have, used like a modified Tanto like that, which I actually think would have been a pretty cool knife, and that would have saved it, but you lose that really thin carving pokey tip. And maybe that's something that they wanted, maybe that's something that makes the knife stand out, but I'm just worried that that's not going to hold up in use. We'll see. I think it's just a concern I have. And so overall, for the price of the knife, I really like this. I think this is a very good, useful, everyday carry knife. It's classy looking. It's not so expensive that you'd like cry if you broke it or lost it or chipped the tip off. The 14C28N steel is probably my favorite non-powder metal steel. Although there's another steel, Nitro V, that I'm going to talk about, and another knife review that's coming up. But this is a really good, cute little folder. It carries well in the pocket. You're not going to have any problems with that. My big concern here is this tip, and the flipping action could be a little better. But that's it in terms of the overview for the Civivi Lumi. Take a look for the written review coming soon.